God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. There's a story about two guys. One guy was very positive, optimistic, open-minded. But the other guy was cynical and negative and closed-minded. And one day, they decided to go duck hunting together. And the positive guy brought his dog with him, Skippy. And as they were hunting, the guy says, "Hey, my dog is amazing. He's talented. Check this out." And so he puts out his hand like this, and Skippy sits or stands up on his hind legs, and he raises his paw and gives him a high five. But the other guy just stares at him unimpressed. And then the guy says, "Well, check this out." He waves his hand like this, and Skippy starts to twirl around and even do a backflip. And the other guy just stares at him unamused, unimpressed. And then finally, they're at the lake, and he takes his gun out and he shoots a duck on the lake, and he says to Skippy, "Go get him, Skippy." And Skippy starts running and darting towards the lake, and he jumps on top of the lake. And all of a sudden, he's running on top of it. And he catches and grabs onto the duck and brings them back. And then the owner says, "Hey," to the other guy, "What do you think? Pretty amazing, right?" And still the guy is unimpressed, and he says, "What, your dog can't swim?" You know, it reminds us that oftentimes in our life, we can get stuck into negative thinking, stuck in our own way of thinking, and it keeps us from seeing how God is working in our life. God's blessing us. It's like the gospel today from Mark. Jesus, it says, is angry and grieving at the hardness of the heart of the Pharisees. And why were the Pharisees heart-hardened? Well, the Pharisees accused Jesus of breaking the Sabbath. The Sabbath, as we know, was a day of rest. God instituted the Sabbath in the Ten Commandments when he gave to Moses. And the Jewish people, the Sabbath, the seventh day, was a day of no work, just rest, renewal in the Spirit. But the problem with the Pharisees is that over time, they started to develop a very intricate and complex set of rules to interpret what work was, to the point where they became so rigid, they couldn't see the good that Jesus was doing. And we hear in the gospel, Jesus performed this amazing miracle where he healed this man with a withered hand. And the Pharisees, all they could do was look at Jesus with contempt, with anger, to the point where they wanted to kill Jesus. Jesus didn't break the Sabbath. He was doing the work of God, a work of blessing, which what the Sabbath was about. It was the Pharisees, unfortunately, they misinterpreted the reason for the Sabbath. The Pharisees were full of self-righteousness, rigidity, negativity. They couldn't see the goodness of God and his work. You know, in our life, do we recognize the stubbornness in our hearts? Do we recognize oftentimes our hearts are hardened because of our negativity, our cynicism, our pride, our self-centeredness? In order to truly grow in our faith and recognize how God's working and blessing us, it takes an attitude of humility to recognize what are our shortcomings. What are those areas in our life that we need to turn to God for his grace to help us grow? Here's a prayer that I want to invite you to pray. It's kind of very similar to the serenity prayer. We all know the serenity prayer. God, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. We'll pray this prayer. It's called the people's prayer. God, give me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the people that I can, and the wisdom to know that that person is me. God bless you.